Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is FPL Elma. So I'm going to be going through my first FPL draft of the season. I feel like this year is going to be a wonderful season and I'm very excited for it. And I know all of you guys who play FPL are also very excited for this FPL season. For this season, I'd hope to finish in the top 30,000. Of course, we've already cracked the top 50,000 milestone. So the next step up is the top 30,000. And I'm sure you can be able to achieve that. And yeah, when regarding the YouTube channel, we aim to push for 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and that can be made possible by you guys subscribing. And yeah, so just that leads me into saying if you're new around here and enjoying the content, make sure you subscribe, make sure you leave a like, and make sure you hit that bell. Don't miss any content going up on the channel. And also think any much time. Let's get straight into it. So I've been getting a lot of messages and DMs on my socials. The links are down in the description, by the way, if you want to interact with me. I'm mostly active on Instagram and TikTok, so the links are down in the description. I've been getting messages about my leagues for the upcoming season, and here are the codes: the Classic League, the head-to-head league. So make sure you go join. You're able to compete with this wonderful community in a very competitive league. And also the links for the auto join are down in the description. So make sure you go join and don't miss out on the wonderful competition. So with that, now let's look at the actual video. So first, I'm going to start off with the defending and the goalkeeping department. I feel like this year there's going to be a lot of very different teams going about, especially with the prices of the defenders, the left backs and right backs being at a more premium price compared to the actual centre backs. It's going to be interesting to see what people are going to be able to cook up, but this is what I've been able to get in the kitchen and be able to cook up. I've gone for Kelleher in goal against Nottingham Forest, and at 4.5 million, I think it's a very cheap alternative goalkeeper to go for. But I'm not so sure on Brentford this season, so that might change before the start of the season. And maybe going for a more premium goalkeeper in like Robert Sanchez, who is someone I'm really looking at. But for now, going to have Kelleher in there. Then we're going to have Darlow from Leeds. I think this season is going to be the starter for Leeds. I've been reading a lot of reports from the Leeds fans and Leeds forums and stuff like that. They don't like the look of Melia in the Premier League, so maybe Darlow, who has some Premier League experience, of course, from being from Newcastle, I think he's going to be more favored in the Premier League. But I'll just have to wait and see. What at 4 million is going to be a regular starter, but it's someone I'd want in my team for sure. They're going to be having 8 Nouri in the defense, of course, signed for Man City for the upcoming season. I think it's a very good investment by Man City. We did have Gvardiol, who used to chip in with a lot of goals from the left back positions, but now with H-Nouri you get both a mixture of both goals and assists, and I think it's going to be very good, especially the likes of Haaland in the box for those attacking goals, attacking options. That's why I've gone for H-Nouri in there and hope he's going to be able to live up to the expectation of the season. Then we have Kukurea as well. From Chelsea at also 6 million. He did chip in with some few important goals for Chelsea last season with the way Maresca is playing him. He's playing Korea in a very attacking role. So I've gone for him. He had a wonderful last season, and I hope this season is going to have the same outcome. I think Chelsea this season are going to be the surprise. I think Chelsea might actually win the league this season. That's an outside shout. So yeah, I hope that hope Korea is going to be able to be instrumental in that. I hope going to be able to perform. Then you have Aina from Nottingham Forest. I think at 5 million or 5.5 million, one of the two. Nottingham Forest. I'm not so sure they're going to perform this season with 2 games a week. Of course, with them being in Europe, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to be able to perform. But I've gone for him in there, and I hope that he's going to be able to perform. I'm sure now with Morgan Gibbs White staying in the team, I think it's going to lift up the squad a little bit. Of course, they've lost one of the attacking threats in Elanga, but they still have Chris Wood, Morgan Gibbs White, and the likes of Hudson Odoi, who chipped in with a few goals last season, and Aina managed to get a few assists here and there. That's why I've gone for him. Then you have Konza against Newcastle. I think at 4.5 million defender. I think Konza is one of the best to have in there. But of course, with someone like Konza, it doesn't offer any attacking returns. But what he offers you is a lot of yeah, a lot of he's always available. Let's just say that he offers availability. He's always available for Aston Villa. He's never injured, so that I've gone for him. And of course, I have even forgot to mention with the new rules for the defenders. I think we're going to see a lot of centre backs in people's teams because they get a lot of points with some defensive actions. I'm sure you've all read about that, so that's why I think it's very good to be having like some centre backs in there as they're going to be having some defensive acts that are going to be able to get some points. So yeah, Konza is also a very decent option at 4.5. He did get a lot of tackles, a lot of clearances last season. So I think it's a decent option. Then we have one Bissaka finishing off the team. Of course, West Ham with a big asterisk. We don't know how they're going to do. They haven't signed any player as far as I'm aware. They've just lost Kudus, and I'm seeing they're linked to our goalkeeper. So yeah, you never know what's going to happen at West Ham. They do have Bowen, who's a very bright spark. But with Wan-Bissaka, of course, winning the player of the season for West Ham last season. He had a very wonderful season, and the first opening fixtures for West Ham, I think, are very decent fixtures, and of course, something to look at. That's why I've gone for Wan-Bissaka. I think he's probably going to be on the bench, but at 4.5 million, I think is a very decent option. And for my other consideration, as you know, the tradition on the channel is going for Kakes in there. I think Kaka is going to be very, very good for Liverpool this season. That's why I've gone for him. Still don't know the news about how they're going to share minutes with Robertson, of course. I think Kaka is going to be the starter, and I think he's going to have a wonderful season for Liverpool, and that is my other consideration. If I manage to go for maybe ship out one of Aishnouri and Kokorea, I think I'd want to have Kakes in my team. And yeah, so that's the defense. Now let's look at the midfield. So this is how the midfield is going to be looking like. We're going to be having Kudus in there starting off in the midfield at 6.5 million. I think it's a very decent option, and I think I'm a little bit undervalued as well at 6.5. I think everyone is going to be having him in the team. I think the defense is where they're going to see a lot of variance, but I think when it comes to the midfield and the attacking options, I think you're going to see some similar midfielders and similar defenders and even similar forwards. But yeah, so Kudus in there, he looked very sharp. I think a day or two ago against Arsenal, he looked very very sharp. He did start ahead of Brennan Johnson, which I was not so sure that was going to happen, but he did start and he did look very very good. And I hope he's going to be able to perform the same way he did perform for West Ham. He didn't have the best season, but he still looked like a bright spark for West Ham last season, and I'm sure he's going to have a similar season for Spurs. I think with more goals and more assists, he's playing in he's playing in a better team. Then you're going to having Salah and Vats. Of course, now let's start off with Salah. Salah did manage to get both the most clean sheets and the most goals last season. He did have a wonderful season. Of course, question marks if he's going to be able to pull up the same numbers, but I honestly think he's going to be able to match those numbers, and that's why I've gone for him in there. And I hope he's going to be able to perform the season, as I think they've had a very good transfer window. They've been able to strengthen their attack. Of course, there's a slight concern on their CDM, but that does not concern Salah. He's just there for the goals, and I'm sure he's going to continue scoring lots and lots of goals. And I've gone for Vats in there. I think with Vats, he's just a playmaker. I think he's just in the KDB realm of talent. He can be able to provide an assist out of nothing and still able to score goals out of nothing. You can see his stats for last year in the Bundesliga. He did get a lot of assists, and that's why I've gone for him in there. Especially now with the likes of Salah and Gakpo running in behind the channels. And of course, they might even get Isaac. They've been able to get Ekitike. And I think someone like Vats behind those kind of players is going to be able to get a lot of assists. That's why I've gone for him. Then we're going to be having Palmer from Chelsea. I think with Palmer last season he had a good start to the season, but he kind of tailed off towards the end of the season. But in the Club World Cup, he looked like he regained back his form a little bit, especially in the final. He did look very very sharp. That's why I've gone for him in there, and I hope he's going to be able to perform. As I've said, I think Chelsea are going to be dangerous this season, especially in the attack. They do have a lot of attackers who can score a lot of goals. And of course, Palmer is on penalties, so I think he has an edge above some of the Chelsea players. So that's why I'm going for him in there. Then we have Kamara at 5 million. I'm going for him in there just as an enabler. But honestly, I'm looking at going for 4.5 million midfielder and just stick him in there, or maybe go for a 4.5 million forward and get a better midfielder in there. Someone like Ndiaye is something that who I think have a very good season, but you not still reach the forward line. But we're going to be able to reach there and be able to see what I can able to do some tinkering here and there. Then for my other consideration, of course, I'm going for Morgan Rogers. He did look very sharp against Frankfurt in preseason. I think he got a goal and an assist. I think he's still the bright spark for Aston Villa, and he's someone I think I must have in the team. But I'm not so sure how I'm going to fit him in the team. We're going to have a lot of tinkering to be able to fit him into the team, and I think I want him in my team, so I'm going to do that tinkering. So yeah, so that's my other constellation I'm thinking of. Plus the midfield looks pretty solid, full of goals and assists. So now let's look at the forward line. So this is how my forward line is going to be looking like. Going to be having Solanke in there against Burnley, and I think at 7.5 million. I think it's a no-brainer to have someone like Solanke in there. Of course, trusting Spurs is not for everyone, and of course, I think he has a slight injury at the moment, so that's something to look at before the start of the season. Is he going to be available? Is he going to come off the bench? If he's going to come off the bench, you'd rather go for someone else instead of having Solanke in there, and Ekitike is someone I think I might go for just to have that Liverpool front three trio. We haven't had that in a while since Firmino left, so maybe it's time to have the front three of Liverpool in the team. Then we have Pedro, who's at Chelsea, of course. Of course, the only question mark with Pedro is going to get the same amount of numbers, no penalties, because I think Palmer is still going to be the penalty taker for Chelsea. So that's something I'm looking at, and I'm not so sure he's going to be able to get those numbers. But he did look very sharp in the Club World Cup, and that's something that has pushed me to go for him and just to have the triple Chelsea, because I think Chelsea are going to be very strong this season. But he's going to be having a lot of competition with the likes of the Lap, the likes of Nkunku. So it's going to be difficult to see what to do. But for now, Joe Pedro is in the team, and I hope he's going to be able to perform and get a lot of goals for Chelsea. Then we have Beto finishing off the team against Leeds, I think at 5.5 million. I think it's tossed up between Beto and DI at the moment. That's why I'm leaning towards going for someone like McGurry. He was just doing Sunderland for 4.5 million, and then getting that extra million, able to putting it to Kamara to be able to get a better midfielder like maybe we get in the eye. But I don't know what the meta is going to be. This is going to be 3-5-2 or 3-4-3. Just have to wait and see throughout the season. But at the moment, I really want to get Rodgers into the team, and I want to get Sanchez into the team, and it have to be in the detriment of Beto and Kukurea, unfortunately. But for now, before I put out my second draft, this is going to be my first draft. Of course, my other consideration is going to be Isaac, but of course, we don't know where he's going to be next season. Is he going to be at Newcastle? Is he going to join Liverpool? Still many things to consider with Isaac, but I think he's my outside shout. If he joins Liverpool, it's a no-brainer. He has to get into the team. But that's the team. That's the team for my first FPL draft. If I was going to use this team, let me show you how I'd line up for game week one. So this is how I'd line up for game week one if I was to use my first FPL draft. We'd have Kelleher in goal, of course. Then we have Aichnuriko Korea and Aina making up the defense. Then we'd have Salah, Vats, Palmer, and Kudus in the midfield, and Beto, Solanke, and Joao Pedro in the attacking front. And then the bench would be Dalo, Kamara, Aaron Bissaka, and then Konza finishing off the team. Doesn't look like a bad team, but I think I'm not so happy with it. I'll give it maybe a 6 out of 10 and hope that I'm able to take it into the 10 out of 10 region before the start of the season. I'm sure this is a very long video, but if you've managed to reach this far, don't forget to leave a like and make sure you subscribe. And with that, I'd like to thank you all guys for watching, and I'll see you all guys later. Bye bye.